Mariners win 7-6. They improve to 47-46 on the season. They take the first of a 4-game set against the Minnesota Twins. Let's talk about how it happened. Third inning, not a very good one for Logan Gilbert. He gives up a double to Carlos Correa after Michael Taylor had doubled to make it 1-0. Alex Kirilloff hits a sac fly to score Correa to make it 2-1. Mariners get things going in the 5th inning. Jose Caballero singles with the bases loaded to score Teoscar Hernandez. Julio Rodriguez draws a bases loaded walk to score Ty France. And Jared Kelnick puts the exclamation point on the inning, I suppose you would say. Singles to left to score Caballero and Mike Ford to make it 4-2. 6th inning, Joey Gallo just absolutely blisters a baseball to center field to make it 3-4. But the Mariners get some big add-on runs in the 6th inning. Mike Ford walks. Cal Raleigh scores on a wild pitch on that play to make it 5-3. And then Eugenio Suarez, massive home run to make it 7-3. And they needed all of it because in the 9th inning, Ty Adcock gives up a 3-run homer to Max Kepler that scores Edouard Julien and Donovan Solano to make it 7-6. Paul Sewald, who was probably expected not to be available tonight, has to come in basically an emergency situation and get the final strikeout to get the out and give the Mariners a win. What a disaster of a loss this would have been. You know, you talk about the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. This would have been more agony of defeat, if I'm being honest with you. And I know I did a big spiel about how it should never feel like that. But sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes you just can't help it. Oh, it would have been a disaster of a loss. But it's a win. And it's a big one because you now set yourself up. You just got to take 2 of the next 3 in order to get the series win. The worst thing that could happen is the worst thing could happen is you lose the next 3 games. The very worst thing that could happen is the Mariners lose their next 69 games. Nice. And finished the season 46-116 or 47-115, excuse me. But the worst thing that really happens now is you've set yourself up really well for a split. Split's not good enough, though. You've got to win this series. You have to win these next 2 series for all the reasons I talked about last night. You have to win those 2 series. I thought Logan Gilbert was okay. Not great. Caught a lot of the plate. Threw some of the best sliders I think he's thrown this year. They may have been classified as splitters, but whatever. He had a good breaking ball tonight. Caught a lot of the plate again, though. Which happens. I mean, he was on extra rest and, nobody's perfect. But he was fortunate to only give up 2 runs in this game. And he definitely deserved to give up those 2 runs in the 3rd inning. A couple hard hit doubles. Not terrible. Not very efficient. But good enough. Good enough. Thought Matt Brash did a nice job. I was really impressed with Brash after he gives up that walk. So he comes in after Spire gives up the home run and he gets the strikeout of Michael Taylor. And then he walks Carlos Correa. And I'm kind of thinking a little bit, is this going to be one of those Matt Brash nights? No. He strikes out the next 2 guys. He does give up a hit to Kirilloff, who's just a really good offensive player. I like his bat a lot for the long term. Twins have some interesting stuff. Anyway, he does give up that hit, and he has 1st and 3rd, and, Munoz has to come in and clean up that mess. But I thought he pitched really well, and I think getting those 2 strikeouts after that walk was big. And a reminder that Matt Brash has the talent to someday be among the very best relievers in baseball. He's pretty darn good now, despite what some people like to think. He's pretty darn good now, but he's only going to get better. Adcock in that situation, I didn't love that decision. I don't know what else you were supposed to do. I'm guessing Topal wasn't available tonight. You were probably hoping that you didn't have to use Paul Sewald tonight either. And I get it from that point, but it did also feel like they were managing this game based on the score. Not based on the score. You're always managing a game based on the score. Managing it because of the save statistic, which I think is a mistake, personally, respectfully. But you know, I don't know totally who was available. Whatever. That's just even in a 4-run game. I think that's asking a lot for Adcock to close that out. Spire does give up the homer. Munoz is his usual fantastic self. Maybe the most misleading 2.45 ERA in baseball. He's good. He's really good. Brash and Munoz and Seawald are. I really hope they can get something done with Seawald long term. Because no, I don't think he's an elite closer by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think he's good enough that I want him to be part of the team. And I also like the guy a lot. Really nice game from Jared Kelnick. Really nice piece of hitting there. Um, I thought, by the way, we didn't talk about Ty France moving down in the lineup yesterday. Absolutely the right call, beyond the right call. And I honestly think that he's a position you should be looking to upgrade at this deadline. I know a lot of people really like Ty France, and I certainly don't dislike Ty France. On the contrary, but I also don't think he is a starting first baseman on a what should be a World Series contending team, right? That's the goal here, right? He's not young. He's getting slower. He's not an elite defensive player, even though he did have one really good defensive season the last couple of years. It's backtracked. I'd be looking to upgrade. Now, look, I'd be looking to upgrade almost everywhere. There's nowhere outside of center field and catcher that I don't think this team can upgrade on. Yes, that includes JP Crawford. Yes, that includes Jared Kelnick. Yes, that includes Teoscar Hernandez. You can upgrade everywhere here, folks. But I really think Ty France is someone they got to think about. If you don't do it in this trade deadline, it's something you've got to consider doing um, in the offseason. Might be a controversial opinion because I know a lot of people really like him. But I just watch him and I don't see much more than an average player. And the bat doesn't really play at first base for me. I mean, it was kind of a weird game. Oh, Cal Raleigh had a really good game today, defensively and at the plate. He made one really bad throw to second base. That was just probably should have thrown a off-speed pitch instead of the fastball because it was a little too far. Well, not a little too far. It went into the outfield on a stolen base attempt. But I thought he called a really good game today. Reaches a couple of times, stings a baseball into right field. Really good game from Gino. I can't overstress how important Eugenio Suarez is down this stretch. He has to be that power producer. He has to, because Julio isn't the same power producer he was at this point last year. I think that'll come. Kelnick, after that red hot start with the pop, again, I cannot remember the last time Jared Kelnick homered. And don't tell me, because I want it to come to me, or I want it to be the next game, and I can say, "Oh, I now remember the last time he homered." Uh they and Teoscar Hernandez, it's so much inconsistency that they need Gino Suarez to be that guy that he was last year, where I believe from August 1st on he led MLB in homers, and it's not something that's certainly not a fluke for him. Suarez has been one of the most consistent power hitters in baseball over the last 5 years, and he's slugging 378 this year. He destroyed that offering off a pretty good pitcher too in Ortega. It wasn't a good pitch, so it doesn't really matter how talented he is. If you make a terrible pitch, you should hit it. But he's got to be better. He is probably the biggest key to me for the second half because I have so much confidence in Julio, and even if Julio isn't the hitter that he was last year, which we certainly see from players in their sophomore seasons that they have to make an adjustment. Suarez is a veteran who has a track record of at very least providing a ton of pop. And also, I will say this too. We haven't talked enough about how good Suarez has been defensively. He's been spectacular. Spectacular. But he has to hit. You cannot just have an all-field guy at third base. This team certainly can't. There's just not enough offensive stars for that to happen. I got to be honest with you folks too. When Kepler hit that home run, there was a terrible pitch from Adcock, a 40 grade cement mixer that broke right into his power stroke. I was thinking, how the heck am I going to do this tonight? How am I going to do this tonight? But it all worked out. I will say also, I don't think that was strike three on Jeffers. That looked outside to me. I don't care. I don't care. Not tonight, anyway. It's something I've been over an awful lot, but yeah. Like the approach tonight, making Sonny Gray work. It did not look good for the first three innings. Ooh, the offense was terrible for the first time through the lineup. Although Riley and Suarez both got hits that first time through, but then Hernandez immediately hits into a double play, and Ty France has just one of the worst at bats I've ever seen him have. It's not just with Ty France now, too, that he's like not making hard contact. He's striking out a lot more than we're used to seeing. That was a horrific at bat. It worked out for the Mariners, but I do think that Ty France is somebody they got to look at upgrading. And if it's not this year, because I don't know what they could really get. And the other thing you have to consider here is Ty France is one of the most popular players in the clubhouse. And team chemistry matters, folks. It does. It is easier to make that switch next year than it is this year. Now, that doesn't mean that Ty France has to be an everyday player for you this year, even. It also doesn't mean that you consider moving him up in the lineup until he actually justifies being moved up. And I look at what they have tonight, and I think that this is what it should be. The only thing maybe is you switch Raleigh and Hernandez if Hernandez is playing well. I'm fine with this 1 through 5. And then 6, 7, 8, 9, it just doesn't matter a whole heck of a lot. Or 7, 8, 9, excuse me. Maybe you consider moving forward ahead of France. Getting that power on display a little more often. Needed this one. Needed this one indeed. And now tomorrow, very interesting pitching matchup. Bailey Ober, who's been good, and Brian Wu, who's been really good after a couple, just really one disaster of a start. Fun pitching matchup. Couple of fun. All three of these pitching matchups are fun. You got Wu against Ober, you got Castillo against Maeda, and you got Kirby against Lopez. And then our good buddy, you say, is getting to pitch on Friday in Toronto. I hope we give him a kind of a warm introduction. I know it didn't work out at the end. I'm still stunned that he didn't opt into his contract at the end of that season. But he's had his flashes of brilliance. You got to take 4 of these next 6. You got the first one. You have to take 5 of 7 of these. Now you got to go and take this series and that series after that, and a lot more after that too. But this homestand, I just think with the trade deadline being so close is uber critical. And a loss here would have been not fun, folks, but let's not do that. Does anyone else do that? They think about how upset they would be if something like they get upset by something that didn't even actually happen. I have that happen to me all the time, and I'm pretty sure it's a sign of insanity. But, who needs sanity? This baseball team doesn't provide a whole heck of a lot of it, that's for sure. Follow me on Twitter at Crawford_MILB. Sports Sometimes podcast. Going to be recording this week. Hopefully with my buddy Kylie McDaniel. We're trying to lock that down, as the kids say. RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. We have new episodes every day, but especially please check out the ones I host. I check all of them out, but really appreciate if you check them out on Saturdays and Sundays as I host those bad boys. Yeah, good win. Almost a disaster of a loss. But we're staying positive, folks.